What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks on a Week 4 recap show here. DJ, Bucky, Rhett with you. And Buck, the teams we work for, rough showings for the Chargers and the Jags. We will get to those games in a little bit. But Rhett, I'm not even going to let you gloat. Golly, they're 5-0. I just don't even want to hear it. But Indiana,
this?
He's wearing all his Indiana gear.
Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing?
I don't understand.
The rock. What rock are we talking about? What rock are we talking about?
We're talking about the limestone rock that houses a 5-0 football team, the number 23rd ranked Indiana Hoosiers. Thank you. I will say they are 5-0 for the first time since my dad was on campus, but it still feels good.
I should have. You know what? I should have Googled. I should have Googled it. I should have Googled like the rock. I would have known better.
Wins.
I know.
Or just Google Kurt Signetti.
I know Kurt Signetti is a big fan of sending people to Google. I should have done it.
Let's go. That's all right.
We'll get into I can't wait to see where he's coaching next year, man. That's a good football coach.
Oh, get out of here. You guys are out of control.
He's going to Carolina. You didn't know?
Now we're already off the rails. Let's jump into the games.
All right. We got NFL games to get to.
Yeah, we're going to get to the 4 teams that are undefeated during this weekend's play here.
That's something I'm very familiar with.
Yesterday. There you go. Please, Buck, save us. You can start us off. We'll go Buffalo, Baltimore. The Derrick Henry show, Buck 99, 2 touchdowns. This is a Baltimore Ravens team not long ago was 0-2, and now they are right back where they want to be and playing well on all 3 phases.
You know, it's funny, DJ, sometimes you got to take 2 steps backwards before you go 2 steps forward. And when I look at the Baltimore Ravens, they had to get popped in the mouth until they decided, like, you know what, guys, I think we need to figure out what our identity is. I think our identity is we're going to run the football with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. We're going to play great defense, and we're going to win a bunch of games. And it's funny that they wasted a couple games before they got to that, but they're here now, and the team that played on Sunday night, if they continue to play that way, they're going to be a problem for people because the combination of the 2-time rushing champ busting out for 80 yards on the first time he touches it, and then Lamar Jackson picking and choosing when he wants to run the ball. I don't know how you defense this unit, and the fact that Monken has added some motion, some misdirection, some deception to enhance the running game. Good luck. Baltimore Ravens are back being what the Baltimore Ravens are.
Yeah, and you know what? I think there's 2 things that I caught up with outside of obviously the headline being, you know, the king rules and reigns in Baltimore once again. That's Derrick Henry. But they made some changes along the offensive line. Patrick McCarry, who had played a lot of right tackle the first 3 games, moved over to left guard and played every snap at left guard. And then they got Roger Rosengarten out there at right tackle. And he had some rough moments early in this season, but played really well in this game. And so I think that gave them their best 5 guys out there, for this game in particular. And not only did Derrick Henry make this offense better, but Derrick Henry made Justice Hill even more potent, right? Because you're getting pounded with Derrick Henry, for 24 carries. And then you got Justice Hill in here. Like, he looks even faster and more explosive, I think, now that Henry is out there, right? I mean, like, the change up there, I know we talk about that a lot, but it feels real. Like, he was their leading receiver, 6 passes, 78 yards. And I think just the way that you have to prepare to deal with Derrick Henry allows Justice Hill to find some explosiveness, through the pass game and some of those quick throws, screen passes. Man, it's hard to deal with, DJ, when you got all that going at once.
Yeah, and another thing, I watched Rosengarten was one of the notes that I had made on. You watch their explosive runs. He shows up in the explosive runs. Did a nice job there out on the right side. The other note I wrote down was with Patrick Ricard, and I see it with the Chargers. We'll get to them later, but with Scott Matlock. Remember a few years ago when Debo first hit, and it was like, okay, we talked about finding Debo with a little play on words there. Yeah. Teams are going to try and find a guy to use as this kind of wing back and to be able to get the ball, flip it to him, do different things. What Patrick Ricard does is so unique as a 300-pound fullback / H-back. And you look at, again, a lot of those big runs, he's delivering key blocks. He's got really, really good feet. He fits up well. And it's like adding an extra 50, 60 pounds to the position. In a league where not many people really even have fullbacks or use fullbacks, they've got the unique one that's 300 pounds. And I see the Chargers are starting to get more and more use out of Scott Matlock the same way. Buck, I wonder from a scouting trend if you're going to see a lot of these defensive linemen at these pro days Some of these guys who are maybe mid-round picks, late-round picks, getting cross-trained a little bit to see if they can't fill that role.
I mean, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you take advantage of the big guys? And we think about defensive line and the athleticism that they tend to possess over their offensive line brethren. You have an opportunity to get a sledgehammer that can lead block, that can do a few different things. So you're right. This is part of a trend that I expect to continue to see because we're seeing the game kind of go back. We're going back in time where we're seeing more 21 personnel, more bigs on the field, more old school running game. So it's just a matter of time before we see the fullbacks reemerge, and some of those fullbacks are going to be former D linemen.
A real quick, Rhett, and then Buck follow up. Any concern? I don't have any concern about the Bills in this one. They kind of walked into a hornet's nest in a night game.
And Josh Allen said the same thing. He's like, we walked into a buzzsaw. And look, I think you're going to have some of those. And as he said, I think, I'm glad we got this one now. Right. So, if you felt like maybe there were some flaws, maybe you just played, didn't play up to the standard in this game, that can be fixed. And if there were some things that they noticed on tape that obviously the Ravens were ready for, then this gives them an opportunity to correct those and get back in there and get things done. But yeah, I don't imagine that the Josh Allen led Bills are going to have many more games like this against top competition. I'm just glad that he's okay after this hit right here. Which, had us kind of wondering for a little bit because he was down on the ground.
Buck, no concerns?
My only concern would be without a true number one receiver on the perimeter. When they played the good teams, the elite teams, how did they deal? We didn't see that offense flow. Now, I obviously saw it at its best that Monday night where they were going, Khalil Shakur and everyone, they were doing their thing. But I do wonder, without Stephon Diggs, without Gabe Davis, as they're relying on this wide receiver by committee, when they play some of the elite teams, do they have enough firepower to do it without Josh Allen having to play like a superhero? Because he had to kind of go into superhero mode on Sunday night, and it wasn't good for the Buffalo Bills when he has to play like that.
Yeah, I think the Ravens are just a tough matchup for a lot of teams. You just don't see teams play the way they play, really, on both sides of the ball. So I'm willing to forgive that performance from the Buffalo Bills. Let's get to the next game here. Another undefeated team, the Kansas City Chiefs. It hasn't been pretty. Wasn't pretty in this game. I was there calling the game for the Chargers. 10-0. Chargers are up early, and then you see, the quick strike ability, which really hasn't been there for this Chiefs offense for quite some time. They go max protection. They take the deep shot to Xavier Worthy, gets them right back in the game. It's next, it's 10-10. They find a way to put a drive together and end up winning this ball game 17-10. Offensively, I still, there's issues with the Chiefs. Man, huge injury. Rashee Rice, who had been really their passing offense the entirety of it, he goes down with a torn ACL, unfortunately. On this interception return by Christian Fulton is when it happened. It was a little friendly fire there. From Patrick Mahomes, you hate to see that, but that's an offense. Kelsey started to get going a little bit, so that's a promising sign for the Chiefs. I don't think their tackles are very good. They got exposed again in this game. That would be a reason to be concerned for the Chiefs side of things. But, Buck, we always say it, right? Winners win. They find ways when they need to make plays. When they needed to get a first down late in the ball game, they run a little mesh and they get Xavier Worthy on Asante Samuel Jr. on a little under, and that ices the game, finishes the game. So that's from the Chiefs side of things. Chargers side of things. The positives, look, you held the Chiefs to 17 points, so your defense is playing well. You got after Patrick Mahomes. You sacked him, I think, 3 times in this ball game. McConkey made some plays, which is good to see. I think he's going to be a good player. But when you're down, your tackles, man, Derwin James, Bosa, that's one thing. The defense was still fine, but offensively, they gave up 15 pressures. And part of that's on just not having, as not many teams do, the depth to be able to absorb those types of injuries. And then part of it is, look, this Chiefs defensive front, they're good. And there are guys like Wharton, who nobody talks about, Karlaftis, who can bull rush it, and then Chris Jones is a dominant player. So, I fault the Chargers for giving up the pressures, but I don't want to short the Chiefs their credit for what they did up front.
Yeah, really good team. Kansas City Chiefs know how to do, and you talked about winners winning. Their experience, their expertise, the fact that they've been able to do this 3 of the last 4 years, kind of knowing what it takes to get to the final game. There's some confidence that comes with that, and the fact that they've been able to do it differently. They've done it with a high-powered offense. They've done it with defense playing at an A level. They have the ability to morph into whatever team they need to win games, and that's a dangerous thing to face because they just can change speeds, and Andy Reid is willing to do whatever it takes to win. As long as the Kansas City Chiefs do that, man, you have to deal with them if you're going to get to the AFC title game.
Well, I think a couple of things on this one. Obviously, DJ, you saw the Rashee Rice injury didn't look good. Obviously, when it happened, everyone talking about the ACL is what's been feared. For him, who is their number one wide receiver, right? And then now we saw a reemergence of Travis Kelce back in this offense with the 8 or the 7 catches on the 9 targets, and you do wonder what difference would a Derwin James have made in this game on that player in particular. But I think what I'm most curious about now is without Rice, who was the guy in the pass game so far this year for this offense, what does Worthy become? What did you see out there and how they deployed Worthy, DJ, from watching this thing up close and personal? And where do you think his role expands? And can it really expand to account for the loss of Rice?
Well, he hasn't run the full complement of routes coming into this game. And really after that first week, you didn't even see him really involved. He's just basically been a vertical stretch option for them. And they haven't, I think they threw the stat up during the game. I think that was Mahomes' first 50+ yard touchdown pass since 2022, which is shocking when you think about how vertical this passing game used to be once upon a time. But he's going to have to start running more routes. He's going to have to start doing more things. You saw it with the shallow cross, late in the game, which was good to see from the Chiefs' standpoint. But adding, just more ways to get him the ball.
Yeah.
No, yep. Yeah, and they're gonna give him. They're gonna throw the screens. They're gonna get those little quick hitters in, those now routes, and zip those out to him. He'll get those. But he's going to have to develop more, and they're going to have to get something out of Juju Smith-Schuster and some of these other guys. It's not going to be enough. Kelce is going to eat you up if you want to play zone against him. But you look at how to match up with the Chiefs, and you're going to have to get up there and challenge them, and that's where Worthy has to win. He has to win when you get those opportunities.
Yeah, the thing that Andy Reid can always lean on is he can go back to that old Philadelphia Eagles playbook and figure out a way to use the same plays that he used for Deshaun Jackson. He can use those plays for Xavier Worthy. And you will see more of the shallow crosses show up because Xavier Worthy's really good at that. You will see the occasional vertical shots and the screens and things. He'll have plenty of opportunities to have his impact on the game. But you're right, it's the other guy who has to show up. Is it Juju Smith-Schuster being a guy that kind of morphs into their second dependable wide receiver outside of Travis Kelce? Because Kelce now goes to the top of the list when it comes to the targets. Can Juju give them that chain mover presence while you have Xavier Worthy continue to expand his game and become more than just kind of like that one-trick pony as the big play specialist?
Yeah, I think we probably see more Noah Gray too.
Yeah, you can use more tight ends.
More of those 2 tight end sets because Juju wasn't targeted once in this game.
No. Well, I know one thing. Sky Moore ain't going to be targeted again either because they gave him 1 third down opportunity on an out route. The ball went right through his hands. And, I don't know how much longer that he's going to be in the trust. I don't know how much longer he's going to be in the trust tree after that. Let's get to the Minnesota game. Minnesota, Green Bay. Jordan Love back in the mix. Ton of yards, had some turnovers. Overall, I think on the Green Bay side of things, you feel encouraged that he's healthy enough to do everything you need to do going forward. But Minnesota got out to a nice lead and was able to hold on. As you see on the screen here, Sam Darnold, multiple TD passes, 4 straight games. Justin Jefferson was outstanding. Aaron Jones still showed he has more in the tank. Going through and watching this team, they're very well coached. They are a very well coached team, and I don't know that you can say that in a lot of these games when you're going through and you're scratching your head and asking questions on both sides of the ball. In terms of offensive play caller, defensive play caller, I don't know. Red, I'd put them in the top 3 in the league when you combine those 2 guys with Flores defensively and what KOC's doing offensively.
I think it's a great point. I mean, we've talked on this show quite a bit about what Brian Flores does on the defensive side of the ball, but I want to talk about what, a reemergence of a big-time explosive player does for Kevin O'Connell calling the plays and game planning this offense. Jordan Addison returns after the week 1 injury and looks as explosive as we have ever seen him. He had the 2 touchdowns in this game, 1 on the ground, 1 through the air. And, 4 catches, 4 targets, 78 yards. I mean, when you pair that with Justin Jefferson, And then, Jalen Naylor has played really well, in Addison's absence. But the thing that I thought, watching this is you look at how defenses want to play a Justin Jefferson offense, right? They're going to, if it's not a too high look, they're going to shade that single safety to the Justin Jefferson side. And I think now defenses are going to be like, we can't do that because Addison won on a stutter go that went for a score through the. There was no contest. Like him one-on-one on that side with nobody over the top. You gotta play. I think they're going to see a ton of too high looks now, but you're gonna play this offense straight up with Addison in there. Like you cannot overplay to Jefferson because Addison will crush you, and then they can get him the ball in so many ways. That little end around that they had him on, the moves that he made with the ball in his hands to get into the end zone there, his stop start quickness, fluidity at the top of the routes, in and out of breaks. It's just it's so much fun to watch, and I'd love to be Kevin O'Connell calling plays right now.
It's funny, DJ, because you talked about are there any two play callers that are better than this duo that we have up in Minnesota? And I go back to that visit that we had last summer. Red and I were up there, and Brian Flores is just teaching the defense, and they're working on pre-snap disguise and post-snap movement and how everything is coordinated. And I remember last year it was smoke and mirrors because he didn't have the personnel that would give him an opportunity to really dominate. So he did a lot of with schematics and creativity and tricks and those things. Fast forward a year later, he now has better personnel and he's doing the same thing. And they just have what I call a high IQ defense because they can throw so many different things at you. And because they're really smart in the back end, they can execute it. This combination of offense and defense is one of the best combinations in football. And look, man, I know we didn't talk about the Minnesota Vikings being contenders coming into the year, but to me, the way that they have just kind of rolled through these first 4 games, they are absolutely in that conversation as one of the best, if not the best team in football.
Yeah, it's also a point. I was talking with Romo before the game yesterday, and I was talking about the advantage the Chiefs have with having Spags, who's not getting head coaching looks. So you have that continuity with Andy Reid offensively. You just keep building and building and building, and then when you have defensively, you get into the graduate level courses. So I don't know what's going to happen with Flores if he's going to get another opportunity. Obviously, it did not go well at all in his first stint as a head coach, and I hope for his sake, if that's what he wants, he'll get another opportunity. But I could envision this being a situation where these guys are there together for quite some time, and they can have some stability and really build something special there with Minnesota. One positive note before we move on Green Bay: Jaden Reed 7 for $139. When I went and watched his targets in this game. He can play inside. He can play outside. He works in the middle of the field. He works back to the ball. He's an outstanding hands catcher. Like he plucks everything, attacks the ball in the air. He's instinctive when the play breaks down. He is a really, really good player. So for everyone wondering kind of who that go-to guy is for Green Bay, all those different receivers that they have, I think he might be the toughest cover of any of those guys. And if I was Jordan Love and I needed a completion, that's where I'm going. I just feel very confident and comfortable with him. I think he's a really, really good football player. All right, let's keep the train rolling here. Pittsburgh, Indy. Pittsburgh entered this game undefeated. Actually, Buck was a good stat game for Justin Fields. Did some nice things offensively. Pittsburgh came back and got back into this ball game. But you have the injury to Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco just fills right in. I mean, that's a nice luxury to have to be able to throw him in there.
Yeah, it's a nice luxury to have. But if I'm Chris Ballard, I'm beginning to get a little worried and concerned about Anthony Richardson having to leave the game so often. It's been a part of his injury history. Like he gets banged up, he gets beat up. That's been a part of his deal since he left high school. But man, our franchise guy, he's never available. And luckily we went and got insurance. We got Joe Flacco. But when you think about what they have done in terms of putting this offense together and how they built it with Anthony Richardson in mind. He's not available to play. At some point, man, it becomes frustrating if you're Shane Steichen trying to figure out how to build an offense around a player that is never available to play.
Yeah, I was watching this one on Game Day Live, and obviously we played this one heavy when it went in, and you saw the hit happen initially, and you're like, oh man, he just doesn't look comfortable, trying to get down right and take care of himself, and it was Minkah Fitzpatrick that came in and kind of lit him up the first time, and then he comes back in, and you can kind of see he's trying to pull and run. No. It just didn't look, and then he's still trying to kind of get down and takes another big shot. I'm just glad he didn't end up with a head injury as well, on how that ended up going down when he met Fitzpatrick for the second time. The good news for the Colts is they, as you said, Flacco is a great luxury to have as a backup quarterback. I mean, that was a great signing by Ballard to go out and get him. But Josh Downs is back in a big way for this team, and missed the first couple of weeks coming back from the high ankle he suffered early in training camp. I remember seeing him, in training camp, and I was like, holy smokes, Josh Downs is explosive, and we saw glimpses of that certainly early in his career, and then now coming in here, he's something that the Colts didn't really have. I mean, you look at the weapons on this team, and even throwing Jonathan Taylor into it. We talked about building the basketball team. Like, he is that guard. He is that guy that can get shifty in the slot. The way that he works on some of these option routes, it's like I do not envy being on defense and having to cover Josh Downs one-on-one. And the Steelers, found that out pretty quickly with him in the slot there. Even when he catches it short of the sticks, which he did on a little out route late in the game. I mean, the move that he made with the ball in his hands to ditch the first tackler and then get the first down on a 3rd and 9. I mean, he had the guy that forced him out of bounds going like this. Like, what? I mean, what do we do? What do we do? He was just winning on every route. And you think about all the guys that they have, Pierce and A.D. Mitchell and Michael Pittman and all those big towering tight ends. He's the guy that's different, that just feels different from the body type and that kind of slithery, explosive in and out of breaks perspective from the slot. I think that gives the Colts a real weapon, certainly with Flacco back there too, that can, really kind of understand where and how Josh Downs wants to operate.
Just for a reminder, Joe Flacco was picked one spot after Gosder Cherilus and one spot before Jeff Otah in that draft. It's been a minute. Joe Flacco's been around. That was the Jake Long, Chris Long draft in 2008.
Wow.
Joe Flacco's been playing football for a long time is the point that I'm getting at. Probably haven't thought of Jeff Otah in a minute, Buck. Have you given any thoughts to Jeff Otah?
Yeah,
in a decade.
Long time. Yeah, it's been a long time.
Decade.
He's 8 days older than Anthony Richardson's mom, or 8 days younger. One of the two. They're like close in age. So it's like, yeah. That tells you.
Yeah,
Wow.
That's hey, hats off to Joe Flacco.
Way to go, buddy.
All right, we're cruising to victory, presented by Royal Caribbean, and man, I'll tell you what, it was a cruise to victory for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the Philadelphia Eagles. We can start good or bad, Rhett. I'll let you kick us off here. You can go good Tampa, or you can go
bad.
pretty bad there on the Philly side. I'm going to go negative. You chose violence today. Go ahead.
No, you know what? It does go hand in hand, though, I think. And look, I think offensively, we all understand that the Eagles were shorthanded, right? No A.J. Brown, no Devontae Smith, and that obviously showed up. But I thought this was just as much about the defensive performance as it was about the troubles on offense for Jalen Hurts and company. I think it says something when on the first drive of the game, a drive where many offensive coordinators and play callers are scripting those first 10, 15 plays, those openers. And they said, you know what? We got a 10-play drive. We're going to throw and take it to the air on 9 of those plays. Okay, 9 out of 10, they went to the air against this Eagles defense, right? Testing whether they could actually get after Baker Mayfield and defend Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Trey Palmer, and company on the outside. And the answer was no, they could not. Baker Mayfield, with a lead, threw the ball 33 times in the first half. 33. And, he was on, right? He was on fire in this game. He made some terrific throws, some tight window shot. That one right there to Palmer was incredible. And Slay actually had pretty good coverage there. Not much he could do. It was just too good. But I just think this defense is not good enough yet in the pass game. I was surprised they couldn't get after the passer as much. And they played more snaps of cover one, right? Some man coverage, single high safety than anybody in the league this year or this week. And it wasn't working against this Buccaneers offense. And I thought Liam Cohen had a great plan, recognized where they thought they could get and find some success. And obviously, Bucky, they did there.
Yeah, they did. And, it's funny because there was a conversation about Baker Mayfield coming in the building and, a little more relaxed vibe than a high-strung vibe existed under Tom Brady. So Tom Brady took a little shot, had a little fun with it. But I will say this. I will say that Baker Mayfield is a perfect fit for who the Tampa Bay Buccaneers needed at quarterback right now. And that vibe that he has, that connection that he has with his teammates, when you've been to Tampa and you talk to the players, They love him, they revere him, but they also have taken on some of the good parts of his personality. The Baker Mayfield that we watched at Oklahoma that was super competitive, super confident, almost borderline cocky. They have a little bit of that belief. And with the offense feeling like that and Todd Bowles just bringing heat from everywhere, consistently crafting these defensive masterpieces, the Buccaneers are legit. And we hadn't talked about them a lot, even though they had won the division a year ago. But the Buccaneers are legit. They're tough out, and they're going to be a problem for a lot of teams in the NFC.
I'll give Jason Light a lot of credit, man, because you go from kind of the Jameis Winston who has some initial success and then it doesn't end up working out there. And so he does the all hands on deck, rely on your previous relationships, and he recruits Tom Brady when everybody wanted Tom Brady and he gets a Super Bowl out of it. And then you're thinking, okay, well now Tom Brady's gone. What's the next move? And is this going to be a team that because they've been in the playoffs is not going to get a chance to pick high to get a quarterback? That's challenging, man. When you don't have an opportunity to draft one high and you lose a Hall of Fame greatest of all time quarterback, how do you go about replacing him? And I don't know if anybody could make a case they could have found a better replacement than Baker Mayfield. Buck, I saw Brady's comments the other day. Found that interesting from the game. But it's true. I mean, Baker Mayfield, I think, was the right quarterback at the right time for this franchise. And this is a team that's been in the playoffs 4 straight years and very much looks like a playoff team going on 5 years in a row here. So hats off to Jason Light and the job he's done. And I'll give him a credit on another pick, to a guy that we really liked. Bucky Irving's fun to watch, man. He is so quick in and out. His change of direction is excellent. He's got great vision. Another one of those examples of, golly, I just stick with your initial grade. When I first did my first, ranking in stacking the running backs, he was way up there as one of the top backs in this draft. And he's not the biggest guy in the world, but Buck, I get so mad at myself, dude. Just have some guts, have some courage, and stick with what you saw on the tape, because I love what I saw from him in college.
It's funny.
Another one real quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, another one real quick on the draft picks. Yaya Diaby. Out of Louisville. I mean, you want to talk a big
Juice
physical frame, major juice,
go.
6 pressures in this game to lead all rushers for either team. He's been a stud on that defense. They've hit on some defenders now in the last couple of drafts, and that's a big reason why they're so good on that side of the ball.
What do you think, Buck? I want to get one last thought from you, then we'll move on, keep the train moving here. But has there ever been a transaction of players, even though it wasn't a direct transaction, but you have Hassan Reddick who ends up going to the Jets, who, that trade happens, he doesn't show up, they can't get a deal done. He's obviously giving you nothing. Bryce Huff signs as a free agent with the Eagles, has done nothing. Like, two guys who had so much success in the previous spot and have found nothing. You got nothing out of either one of them.
No, a little buyer's remorse on both parties. And look, man, it's a great lesson to be learned in free agency. A lot of times we think that, not only as players, the grass is greener, but on the other side, you think you can pluck somebody off another roster and put him in your environment and he's going to be the same player. And it doesn't work like that. That's why you hear so many general managers always talk about draft and develop and re-sign your own, because at least you rear them in your process, in your culture, and you know exactly who they are. You understand the warts and the flaws and how to work around them. When you take somebody else's, I would say, problems, you don't know if you necessarily can fix it, and you also don't know how they're going to fit into your locker room or your scheme. Far more subjective when you do the free agent route as opposed to drafting, developing, and then re-signing them.
Yeah, no question. That's a great lesson indeed. Let's get to the next game here. New Orleans, Atlanta. I want to get to the Atlanta side of things here, and I want to hit on one specific player. I'm pulling up my notes on him. Troy Anderson, linebacker for the Falcons in this game. A nice win for the Falcons. Has 17 tackles. He's literally all over the field. You see him run down Alvin Kamara repeatedly. Range to the sideline, closing speed. So I'm like, let me go back and find my notes on him. So he's coming out of Montana State. He was 6'3.5", 243 pounds. He ran 4.42. He was originally a quarterback, then a running back, then an outside linebacker before becoming an inside linebacker there at Montana State. Pulverizes blockers, speed of the alley, big time AA, so agility and change of direction to cover. Lots of PBUs. He gets a little bit high and will get washed at times down inside, but he's somebody with tremendous athletic ability and instincts, former quarterback. Man, that was a heck of a game for him. I mean, that you talk about, Buck, we always look for guys that can run, cover, and hit in blitz as linebackers. I mean, that's what you're looking for at the linebacker position. That's how you deal with guys like Alvin Kamara.
Absolutely, man. You just talked about what this team has done. It's funny because the Atlanta Falcons are, look, I mean, some red zone flubs away from being 3-1. I mean, they're a team that has kind of put themselves in a really, really good position. And when we think about this defense with Raheem Morris and Jimmy Lake, how they've been able to kind of do it, and how they've been able to do it while also folding in some high IQ veterans. You think about Jesse Bates, you think about Justin Simmons, Matthew Judon coming over. They're on their way. And the good thing, if I am an Atlanta Falcons fan, they've been able to do it with their offense not clicking on all cylinders yet. You would think that Kirk Cousins is going to get healthy. He's going to find his way to get, with Kyle Pitts and others. And when that part of the ball takes off, if the defense can maintain its course, the NFC is very competitive with a lot of unheralded teams, but the Atlanta Falcons are another team in that conversation.
Nice. When was the last time you saw a team win a football game without running a single play in the red zone? The Falcons did not run a play.
Touchdown.
They did not run a play in the red zone. They had a special teams touchdown on a muff punt that kind of started things off well. They had the defensive touchdowns you're talking about with Andrew. I mean, like, I kept looking at that. I was like, I got something's wrong here. Let me go. Because we were watching this game, following along on Game Day Live. And I couldn't believe it. But this is about how the 111th meeting between two bitter division rivals was going to go. And it was going to be tight down to the end. And now the Falcons own a 56-55 series advantage over the New Orleans Saints. But I do want to give some positives for the Saints here. Alontae Taylor has become one of the better and more physical nickel players in the league. He remember those 3 sacks he had in the first week against the Carolina Panthers, where you're like, all right, you let the nickel guy get you 3 times and you're not seeing it, right? You're not accounting for. It might just be he's also really dang good. Because I watched him in coverage a couple of times against Drake London in this game, held up really well. And then he stays alive in the play for so long. I mean, London has a surefire catch. I mean, it was a catch fumble. He comes in there and swipes and rakes at that football, knocks it out a couple of different times. He was about an inch away on his vertical from having another terrific PBU. He's been really good for them, and he's a guy that they can build with over there. Paulson Debo played pretty well too, so they got a couple of good young corners out there. Not to mention, Marshawn Lattimore.
I just pulled up my notes on Alontae Taylor because Rhett alerted me that he was going to hit on him. So just over 6 foot, 199 pounds, 4.36 what he ran. He had the fastest GPS at the Senior Bowl. 2 interceptions that last year. He's a little tight in the change of direction stuff, but really instinctive in zone. He was very aggressive and tough to fill against the run. Just had some issues versus double moves in the Ole Miss game. That was the only bugaboo there. But at the foundation and core of a player, you have tremendous speed, you have tremendous toughness, and that's something you can work with. And they've found a way to feature those attributes in a big way, Buck.
Yeah, I just remember when he was coming out, I just remember him being like the versatile guy that people talked about, right? You couldn't figure out, is he safety,
nickel, corner,
is he a nickel? And we are now in a league full of specialists. And in the secondary, I just see the evolution where we used to talk about the little guy being the nickel, then it became, hey, we got big nickels, whatever. And now the position has been where people that are playing the star position in college are basically scouted and evaluated to play the star position in the pros. Alontae Taylor's versatility, his size, his toughness, his speed was always coveted, but we are now in an era where they are really featuring those guys that have those traits. And so it's really good to see.
I want to do a speed round here on the rookie QBs. So I'm going to give you, I'll give you my 3 thoughts on, or a thought on each of these guys here, these rookie quarterbacks. Buck followed up, Rhett follow up Bucky here. But I'll start first of all. Jaden Daniels, awesome once again. The game is slow for him. I
my
when
God.
the visual that I had for him was, and Buck, we've talked about this before, is when you're a kid and you go into the gym and you're taught as a basketball player, hey, as a young player, start right underneath the rim. I'm going to see 10 go through. I'm going to back up 3 steps. I'm going to see 10 go through. I'm going to eventually get back to the free throw line. I'm going to eventually get back to the 3-point line. But I think Cliff Kingsbury does a wonderful job of letting him see some go through the hoop, get into a rhythm. The game slowed down for him, and then the degree of difficulty just goes up from there. But he is so poised and so calm and so accurate. It's elite stuff, what you're seeing there from Jaden Daniels. Let's get to Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, again, strides. You're seeing strides every week. They gave him some screens. They gave him some easy completions in this game, which was good to see. There's some balls he missed down the field, one of which I didn't think DJ Moore was really busting it, so I give him a little bit of a defense there. Still hold the ball at times, but then also was able to extend and create. And then you're seeing again these handful. He's giving you 4 or 5 plays every week where you go, okay, I can hang my hat on this. This is the good stuff, and he's giving you that. So that's a great sign, and that's normal. That's the normal path for a young quarterback. What Jaden Daniels is doing right now is kind of like what C.J. Stroud was doing last year. That's abnormal to have it click this fast. I do think they should use Caleb Williams on more design runs. He only had 3 carries and 2 kneel downs in this game. I think they can do more of that. And then finally, Bo Nix. The guy found a way to win a game. He played in the monsoon. Darn near had to throw the ball with 2 hands at times. They couldn't really do anything. But when they needed to, they got him on the move. He hit a ball, and then the Jets busted a coverage. I mean, I don't know what else to say there other than he hung in there in a monsoon. Yeah. And Buck, he found a way to win a game with 60 yards. So those are my thoughts on the 3 QBs. I'll let you guys give me what you think.
Okay, so let's go with Jaden Daniels. And I don't want to say like for the second year in a row, but for the second year in a row, QB2 has been masterful early in their career. And what we're seeing from Jaden Daniels is franchise changing in terms of not just what we're seeing on the field, but how his teammates respond to him. When you hear the words about he's different, he's special, he's like the savior, he's this, you already know in the locker room, there's a belief in their franchise quarterback that if you just give him the ball back, he can find a way to get it done. And we've talked about experience and how experience matters and how the 54, 55 starts that he had at college, the game would slow down. And we talked about VR and those things. But for a young player to be so comfortable at the next level, you know, where the game is supposed to be harder, but yet this dude is completing 80% of his passes in games and just getting better and better. He's something else, man. And it just goes to show you that as a scout, when you start tracking guys at freshmen, you got to give them grace because they certainly can improve. When you think about what he was as a freshman at Arizona State to how he finished at LSU to how he's playing now, there's just this arc of improvement that suggests that they don't have to be finished products when you first look at them. Give them time, and in the right system with the right play caller, they could be as good as you want them to be if all the pieces of the puzzle fit.
I think you nailed it on Jaden Daniels. The only thing I would say is he's bringing out the best in his best players. Like Terry McLaurin is once again a part of this offense after virtually disappearing a year ago, which is great to see for the Commanders. And for Bo Nix, I remember looking up one time, and I think he was 7 for 14 with -7 passing yards. I don't know how that even happens other than the weather and the conditions. And so I don't even know how much we can really take out of that game other than.
Have you guys seen the movie Necessary Roughness? Have you seen the movie Necessary Roughness?
Yeah,
they're playing in the monsoon. That was the game. They needed Kathy Ireland to come out there and kick the game winner. That's what they needed.
Thing. Yeah. Well, the Jets did. Legatron couldn't get it done.
They could have used Kathy Ireland. Might have had a better shot at that one. That did not go well.
No question. And then on Caleb, man, again, you're right. Like he gives you the glimpses, right? The throw to DJ Moore in the back of the end zone. Like that's special stuff there. I do feel like he is holding the ball a little bit. They need to kind of engineer a little bit more of ways for him to get rid of it quickly. See it, hit it, let's go, and let's move on. Last thing I'll just add on the Commanders, who are playing some really good football right now. I believe all alone in first place of the NFC East at 3-1. Dan Quinn deserves some serious credit for what he's doing there. He also brought over 2 guys he knew very well that could help him run his defense, and Bobby Wagner had 11 tackles in this game, and Dorrance Armstrong, who they were together with at the Cowboys, he had a sack and a half in this game. And so that defense is playing really good too, and they definitely took care of business against Kyler Murray and the Cardinals.
Last thought on those three rookie quarterbacks, the teams they're playing for. I was worried about Adam Peters in Washington in terms of the offensive line they were going to have in front of Jaden Daniels. I thought maybe they could have traded back in to the first round to get one of those tackles. They held their water. They picked Brandon Coleman later, and Brandon Coleman is playing better out of TCU than some of these guys who were picked in the first round. So hat tip to our buddy Adam Peters with the job he did, not only nailing the quarterback, but doing a good job of kind of under the radar building an offensive line that's better than it looked on paper. So hats off to Adam Peters. All right, it's time to get the Bucks game here. We saved it as we get towards the back end of the show. We wanted to keep things positive as we could. I felt Rhett slanted a little negative today, but nonetheless, let's jump into it. I gave you the opportunity. You could have gone positive, negative. You went negative earlier. That's all I'm saying, right? Don't give me that look. Right. Before we get to the result here, and we'll discuss a big win for the Houston Texans. Buck, I want to get your thoughts on it, but I want to hear from the head coach of the Jags before we get to you. Then I'll let you pick it up from there. But this is the post game with Doug Peterson after the Jags lost 24-20.
For what? I thought he called a great game. We as coaches, we can't go out there and make the plays, right? It's a two-way street. So, you guys can sit here and point the finger all you want, and that's fine. Point it right at me. I can take it. Okay? I can take it. So, whatever you want to ask me, say, whatever, write, go ahead.
Here's what I say. It's normally not good when you begin to wage wars with the media, the local media at that. There has been this conversation, which I do believe in Jacksonville is a little premature. It's a little crazy to talk about Doug Peterson being on the hot seat after 4 games. The franchise hasn't had back-to-back winning seasons since 2004, 2005. He's had back-to-back winning seasons in his first 2 years on the job. Yes, they are 1-9 in their last 10 games. Yes, the collapse of last season and the slow start this season does make you uneasy when you think about that. But I think you want to have a broader perspective before you start making those kinds of decisions. That said, I think it's really important that when the team is struggling, the coach has to be uber positive when it comes to his interactions with the team, how he protects the team with the media and those things. And even though we all can say that it's a player's game, it's a player's league, and that, players have to make plays, you run the risk of losing your team if you kind of throw them under the bus in that regard and they don't understand the context behind it. And so hopefully for Doug's sake, he can clean and clear some of that up in team meetings, because the last thing you want is everyone pointing fingers and the players being done with the coach, because once they're done with the coach, there's no getting that back. And then you have to make moves to help rectify the situation, even though I don't believe it's completely lost. I think it's tenuous just because of the way he may have handled himself in this post-game presser.
Yeah, I'm going to choose to go positive, and
look at that! Whoa! Wow, is a regular Tony Robbins over here? I tell you,
what is this? This is not. That's not your role.
Look,
what are we doing?
I don't buy into the negativity. Okay, our friends in Duval are going to figure this thing out. It's just it's troubling when you got to deal with the Texans, and you're on the verge of going 0-4. Because I thought C.J. Stroud and Houston, while they weren't at their best, on this day, and the Jags played, I think better than we've seen them play, but C.J. Stroud continues to give you what you need in the biggest moments. And a 9-play, 64-yard touchdown drive, playing without Tank Dell, I think makes the acquisition of Stephon Diggs, that much bigger, right? Because they've got depth now at that wide receiver spot. And so, Dare Agumbawale catches the game winner.
There we go. Nice.
Nice
work.
You got depth. You got ways to figure it out, and I think they'll get Joe Mixon back here pretty soon, start getting that ground game rolling a little bit more. But Texans got it done when they needed to, and sitting there at the top of the division, 3-1.
I'll give you 2 positives. On the Texans side, Nico Collins, he will work in traffic. He plays with no fear. There's something that's nice as a quarterback when you have a receiver who can work in the middle of the field and win, and not only win, but just but he just plays with no fear. He'll run through contact zones. He doesn't gear down. He doesn't corral the ball with his body and brace. Like, he runs through the ball. He's just a really, really good football player. So that was the positive on the Houston side of things. And then I'll give you the one positive on the Jags side of things. Buck, I watched Brian Thomas Jr. all his routes, dude. He's legit. Like that is he is real. Like when you watch him, he is sudden. He's explosive. He can get in and out of breaks. He's not just a vertical receiver. He looks like he can be a young one. Like he's got that type of ability. But that's the positive. The negative thing is Trevor's missing too many throws. Like you can look at it and say like, oh, anticipation, or is he seeing things? I'm like, man, he's just missing. Like he's just missing throws. That's got to change.
Yeah, it's got to change. And here's the thing that was unfortunate for the Jags, because it took away from what I thought was a really good game plan to help a team that was struggling get back on track. There were things that the Jaguars did that were designed to help this team get up and going. Number one thing they did is they played the hits. Whenever you have a young quarterback struggling, you try to give them things that he's very comfortable with, that he executes really well, and have success. For Trevor Lawrence, that's screens, quick game, occasional shots. He's really good on that, got off to a fast start. The other thing that you do is feed the pigs. So when you're struggling, you try and get the ball to your best players. When you go back and you look at the hit sheet, Christian Kirk had 12 targets. Brian Thomas Jr. had 9 targets. Everybody else had 3 or fewer. And so in a game when you're trying to win and you're trying to go all in, don't mess around, get it to your best players. And I say that to back up your point about Brian Thomas Jr. I don't even think people know how good this young guy is, man. Yeah, his route running ability, his playmaking ability. If you have a chance to watch the reverse that he ran, it's not only how smooth and fluid he is, it's just the innate instincts and reactions that he has with the ball in his hands. He is a number one all day, every day. And as excited as people should be about Malik Neighbors, man, Brian Thomas Jr., I can't imagine guarding LSU when they had both of those guys on the field. I don't know why they didn't win more games. Like it is bananas to think that you.
By the way, the quarterback wasn't bad either.
I mean, I don't know. It just seems like that.
The heck did they not win a national championship? That defense was all-time terrible. How bad is your defense? You couldn't win with Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. Really?
Whew. My gosh.
That should be the biggest takeaway from the weekend. All right, let's get to a quick nugget from each of you here. We've got a fun one. To me, the best game coming up tonight. We've got 2 with Seahawks Lions. Rhett, your Lions here. What are you looking for out of them?
Yeah, I think just you want to be physical here in a game in which Mike McDonald's defense has been rolling, right? So I think you want to find a way to get Jahmyr Gibbs the football. If you want to find a way to run it a little bit here, and you got the benefit of being at home and use that crowd, get after the passer a little bit. If you're on defense trying to deal with Geno Smith, so. I feel like physicality and grit. Let this be one of those Dan Campbell kind of mindset type games here against the Seahawks.
I want to focus on the Seahawks and Mike McDonald and how he's taken a tough love approach to a team that was really player friendly under Pete Carroll. And I would say the old school discipline that he has imposed. When you hear the players talk about, we needed a little more of that to give us the edge for us to go to the next level. To me, I think it's interesting. It's fascinating when you have a young guy that has a clear understanding of his coaching style, how he wants to implement it, how he wants to kind of really impose the discipline so the team can have the freedom to really max out their talent. It's obviously working. When you look at the way the defense has responded, when you look at the way Grubb has taken this offense to another level and how they still can go to even higher heights with Geno Smith pushing the ball down the field. Really good team. This is going to be a fun one to watch. It's 2 playoff teams squaring off. I'm excited to see it tonight.
Yeah, I think it's a playoff preview. I think these are 2 of the best young secondaries in the NFL, too. A lot of young talent in the secondary, so I'm looking forward to watching those matchups on the perimeter in that ball game. We have one more game here. Tennessee, Miami, Buck. Give me a reason. Just give me a reason to watch this thing. What am I looking for here? I'm trying to get excited about it. I'm struggling to get excited about this game. I'm going to be honest.
Okay, so we're going to dig down to the draft Nick and us. We want to see if Will Levis can bounce back. We want to see if he can clean up his game and make us feel like the Tennessee Titans don't need to go back in next year's draft and get a quarterback. So we want to see if Will Levis can take care of the ball, if he can tap into not only the talent that he flashes, but can he refine his game a little bit so we can get
It's not.
excited.
It's not. You're not making it. You're not making me. Rick,
go.
give me
It's
a
not
reason to
compelling
watch
enough.
this game. No, it's not.
May your quarterback be dreamy. May your quarterback's decisions be made with great discernment. Okay.
That's it. You guys suck. That was not a good
On
list.
HN needs 100 points for me to win my fantasy game, so I'll be watching that one.
Watch it for Rhett's fantasy team. That's gonna do it for us, everybody. Thanks for hanging with us. We'll see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.